next subject that we are going to discuss is the style of Jimmy Dore and Joe Rogan and how it helps the progressive media.
We had this conversation too many times, probably me and Gabe, but about Joe Rogan, we talk about the platforming. I do not agree with it, but there's a difference to me between the platforming somebody and then having somebody that's a dishonest person coming into your show and just spewing lies. So with Joe Rogan, Gabe likes to say that, he brings people in and he's open-minded and blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying somebody like Jordan Peterson, he had him at least 6 times. Dave Rubin, at least 3 times. Ben Shapiro, at least 3 times. How many times does it take to know that somebody is a charlatan? Especially in a show like Joe Rogan where he has money, producers, assistants. Even on the first episode that they have him on, they could do some research and see what they're all about. You could have him in, you could debate them, you could see what they're about or learn from them,
But once,
yeah, but even once you have him one time and you realize, they ain't about nothing, why are you going to have him 5 more times? That's what I'm saying.
So there's a couple things. One, his show format is not a debate. It's not like the MSNBC show. It's a long form interview where a lot of times he's sitting back and letting them talk. So you let them talk. Sometimes he'll ask probing questions. But you just gave the example of Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin's been on his show a couple of times. And what was the last time he just went on? He went on and Joe Rogan, without even trying, kind of made him run in circles and made him look terrible about libertarianism and, there's no government systems that work better than the private sector. He goes, or what about the post office? He's like, and what about building codes? And he's like, And this is a guy that Joe Rogan's he's a comedian. He's a comedian. He calls himself, he's a cage fighting commentator,
but this is something that somebody has been on at least 3 times.
Yeah, but it took him that long. This is somebody, he's a good guy. He's somebody that is an honest actor trying to meet these people, trying to learn. And it may take him, we're watching somebody grow over years in their political perspective and watching them grow as they talk to scientists, as they talk to politicians, he's a major person that gave Bernie a platform that he had never seen. Bernie probably got more converts from his appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast than on any other interview.
Okay. Well, how many converts did Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro get? If you just let him spew, I understand he's not a politician. You could have a person in one time, they say your things, you learn, maybe you don't know everything they're talking about. All right. You trying to tell me you didn't learn anything for the second time and you just let them come back again and say the same lies? Come on now.
So can I answer that?
Yeah.
Can I answer that? So I think there's something to be said for what Joe Rogan has been able to do by having people like Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin go on. Absolutely. Like, I think that everybody would agree that Dave Rubin's support has gone demonstratively, it's lower since that appearance that Gabe just talked about that. Since that appearance, people think that Dave Rubin's a dumbass. Like, nobody takes Dave Rubin seriously. And all Joe Rogan did was ask objective questions without any judgment, without any malice. And he basically uses this immense privilege that he has to completely disconnect his emotion from the interview. Now, sometimes, does that mean he has on people that we don't like to see very often? Of course, but that also means he demanded, he went out and reaching out because he couldn't find any good, honest leftists. So he says, well, who can I get on my show? People suggested Kyle Kalinske, Jimmy Dore, Abby Martin, and he listened and got all of those leftists on his show. And those are leftists that many consider fringe, that would otherwise not have a platform like that, but all of their platforms grew because of going on Joe Rogan's show, because the same crowd that a lot of them liked Dave Rubin, when they found out that basically Jimmy was an honest version of Dave Rubin, they realized this is a better place to be. They had that contrast, and that contrast was provided by the platform that Rogan gave them.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all. The problem I have is, how many years have you known Dave Rubin was a joke?
For a while. A lot of people didn't know, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying he had him multiple times, so he knew about him. And like I said,
but where did Dave Rubin ever get a chance to get exposed?
Why does it take 3-4 episodes to get exposed over multiple years?
He probably wound him up. He wants to bring him back and just slowly, and then.
Slowly over that time, their
how much more
presence grows. I mean, listen, I listen to Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility. All right.
All right. Let me jump in here because I want to talk about Jimmy Dore a little bit because, I'm a big fan. Personally, I'm a fan of Jimmy Dore. I've been listening to him before he even joined TYT, but I do have some criticism of him. And one of the things that I criticize Jimmy Dore for is we all hate voter shaming, right? People saying, oh, you're going to vote for Green Party, you're going to vote for this party or whatever. But he does the opposite. He shames people for wanting to work within the Democratic Party and wanting to try to have progressive change from within it. And I think, me personally, have all options on the table. If you feel passionate about starting a whole new party, I'm with that. Go ahead, do you. If you want to work within the Democratic Party, hey, do you. As long as we all trying to get the same goal, Medicare for all, universal child care, et cetera, et cetera.
So I mean, I would say that's a mischaracterization. He doesn't voter shame people for trying to work in the Democratic Party. What he does say is that it's insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So he'll say, yeah, he supports people progressives that are running in the Democratic primary. So he's on the side of change within the party, but at the same time, if we all go, I said in the last episode, if we go and give an overwhelming victory to Biden, it's not going to be, oh, let me give the progressives anything. It's going to be my centrist corporate platform worked, and they're not going to give us anything. They're not giving us anything out in the primary. So if you're going to say Jimmy Dore shaming, yeah, he's saying, how can you vote for somebody who's not even giving you anything in words in the primary and then expect that you're going to change their heart and mind when they're in office? So I think it's a mischaracterization.
Jimmy, you could tell. I go through the same thing, but I'm 31. Jimmy's over 60, right? The things that Jimmy has seen as a comedian, as a commentator, are like 3 times what I've seen. And I'm already feeling exhausted. You can see it in his commentary. I'm going to tell you why. How do you think it feels for Jimmy to warn people about something 2-3 years in advance? We're talking about election integrity, basic election fraud that my shows cover, Convo Couches cover. This is fact-based, evidence-based election fraud issues and election integrity issues before we get into the election. He's warning people who are giving hundreds of millions of their hard-earned dollars that they really can't afford to give to Bernie Sanders. He's warning people, before you do, just hold him accountable and make sure he's going to fight to make sure that your voice is heard and your vote is counted. And people then ignore him but give him the money anyway, which made Bernie feel like he had a license to ignore something like that. There, in the context of this all going on in the Democratic primary that we already saw was corrupt, right? Bernie doesn't fight it. That's why Jimmy is screaming at the top of his lungs, and people think that it's counterproductive to shame. No, he's not saying don't work with the Democratic Party at all. He's saying that it's not possible based off the evidence, but what he is saying that is, how can people that we claim to be allies and good actors take our dollars that they know we can't afford to give and work it within a party without really substantively attempting to change it or making the sacrifice or calling out the people that you need to call out to make that change. So what Jimmy is doing is really prophetic. I mean, yeah, it's kind of obvious outcomes, but it's prophetic in the sense that if we've started paying attention to holding people accountable then we might get different results now. But nobody wanted to hold them accountable because everybody was too busy hero worshiping no matter what they're doing.
That's a great point.
I mean, that's what the show, Political Junkies. The thing I have to say about this is that I am no expert. I'm like a noob at this, man. And I know a whole lot more than most of my friends when talking about politics. A lot of people just don't know. They don't have the time. They don't have the energy. They don't know what's going on. So some of the comments that I made, not necessarily Jimmy, but sometimes people just blame people. Why are you being so stupid and going against your own interests, stuff like that? Some people, they just don't know. They just see what they, maybe.
But Jimmy isn't talking to them. He makes it very clear. I'm talking to the people who actually have seen all of this, seen all the facts, are deep in this politics, and still make the wrong decision, despite the majority of the left saying they only make decisions based off of policy and what they can
Well, we
get.
know,
factual.
They're have self-interest in mind when they go into politics, man. I mean, we talked last episode about Colin Allred. So we know a lot of people go in saying one thing, but they don't mean it.
Yeah, but that's always the conversation that we have, right? Especially with like some of the Bernie folks, right? Like I'm a Bernie guy and stuff like that, but people want to just give him a pass to be like, oh no, like we always go at it. Like Bernie has he ran a bad campaign and he has like a lot of blame. to happen. And so that's, you know, Jimmy said, well, he did it, you know, in 2016, he fought harder than 2020. And you told us.
Joe's his friend.
And you, like I said, and we talked about what happened right when he got asked about the debate issue. He threw his friend who sacrificed her career with the DNC under the bus to defend the Democratic Party. And he thought that was going to get him voted. He propped up Russiagate, but which propped up obviously Comey, Clinton, all these people that were eventually found guilty of basically malice intent or malicious intent. And then you throw everybody, like Yang didn't endorse Bernie. Why do you think? People will say it's because he's corrupt. Yeah, it's partially, maybe a little bit true, but no one else endorsed Bernie. Even Marianne Williamson, I think, took forever to really come out endorsing, and that was like, she got pressed on it. But Tulsi didn't endorse Bernie either. So you had a whole, just like Biden had a coalition that was willing to yield, you had a coalition that was willing to yield. But because you would rather capitulate to the Democratic Party, they either saw two options. It was either to rebel completely, of course, or, well, we're going to have to get behind Biden too, because Bernie has already set this precedent to work within the Democratic Party or else. Because now you're going to get killed because of Bernie's, and this is what Jimmy talks about, by the way, because of Bernie and pushing the Democratic Party and Biden, and then the progressives getting behind Bernie, you're going to get killed by the Democratic Party and the progressives if you don't do what they say. And that's what's problematic and what Jimmy's trying to talk about.